All right, welcome back. Time to bring in our panel right now. With us here in studio today, Abdul Hakim Shabazz from IndyPolitics.org and Casey Smith from the Indiana Capitol Chronicle. And joining us on Zoom, former communications director for the Indiana Democrats, Jennifer Wagner Chartier, and former GOP lawmaker, Mike Murphy. Our thanks to you all for being here. I'm going to start with you, Casey, and the situation here involving the Attorney General going after the local doctor who performed the abortion on the 10-year-old rape victim from Ohio. A lot of reaction to this situation already. What are you hearing from people about the events of these past few days?
Yeah, so we haven't heard a whole lot from lawmakers yet, but what we do know is that this has been an example of how inflammatory the abortion topic really is, and I think for Republicans, it's highlighting how contentious this is, not just for them behind the scenes, but obviously for everyone else. We haven't seen the bill that they're going to propose yet. We do expect an early version of that to drop this coming week, though, so we may see some of this discourse reflected in whatever they propose in that bill.
The Attorney General certainly has been very visible on issues like this, and Abdul, you've been critical of the AG on various topics here in recent years. Where do you think this ranks in terms of the many controversial situations that he's found himself in lately or inserted himself into?
Well, this one has a number of different levels to it. First of all, Kathleen Delaney sent a cease and desist letter to the Attorney General, which is sort of the first step towards litigation, because some of the things that the Attorney General said could be considered false light and defamatory. Also, I think, too, this once again, this complicates the abortion issue, because as Roe v. Wade is turned back to the states, some states will outlaw abortion, some states will keep it, and you have people sort of traveling back and forth across state lines. Now, like, hey, is there a rape report? Is there a DCS report? This is a lot more complicated than people think, and I frankly wish the Attorney General would sometimes just stop talking, just get all the facts first before he opens up his mouth.
Jennifer, what are your thoughts here, not only on the Attorney General's handling of this situation, but also where we're headed here on this issue as a state and as a nation?
Well, I agree with Abdul. I think that, Todd Rokita would be well served stopping his mouth from moving and the words from coming out of it, or at the very least getting his facts straight before he opens his mouth. But honestly, he loves it when people talk about him, so I don't want to talk about him. I'm really interested to read the bill that's coming out in the coming week, because I'm a little bit tired of hearing from the party that preaches individual liberty that they want to carve out some pretty big exceptions for, people who are able to bear children. And I'm really interested to see how this all shakes out, because obviously this is a more complicated issue than I think they and the governor originally assumed that it would be. And I think, quite honestly, this is a losing issue for Republicans with women and with younger voters.
Mike, your response to that is this going to be a complicated issue for Republicans, perhaps more complicated than they'd first envisioned? And do you think there are Republicans who are disappointed the AG took things as far as he did this week?
Well, that's two different questions. Let's start with the abortion thing. First of all, I have to remind people that in the Declaration of Independence, one of the first word or the most important passage in that declaration is the word life, that we have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And somehow life gets dropped by the Democrats every single time this issue comes up. I don't think it's going to be so difficult for Republicans. Polls are showing there are two issues out there right now nationally, and they're called the two G's, gas and groceries. The pro-choice, pro-life issue is going to make some Democrats more Democratic, make them come back home, so to speak, to their party, and some Republicans more Republican. It's not going to make any major changes in the election. They're talking 5 or 6% here. When it comes to Rokita, I have to agree with everybody. I mean, it was a very Burton-esque movement on his part to rush to the TV cameras before he had the facts. Instead, he stepped on his own toes.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly talk more about that as well. We do want to talk more about the potential legislation that we're about to see here, Casey. The governor this week also kind of walking back some of the comments that he'd made previously about having no red lines when it comes to what kind of legislation that he would support. He
did try to walk back some of his words there. He corrected himself to say that he doesn't have any ultimatums. He was not clear on what pieces of a bill he would or wouldn't support specifically. What we are hearing is that we may not see a full ban that's in that first bill that comes across the table this week. But lawmakers are still being very quiet. Still probably a few more days.
Abdul, what are you hearing about what kind of legislation that we might see here in the coming days?
From lawmakers I've spoken to on background, I'm hearing exceptions for the life of the mother, rape and incest. I'm also hearing no criminal penalties for women who get abortions or doctors who get abortions. Also can say this, Republicans have been polling this issue as well with a lot of their constituents to see sort of where the constituents are. And I'm also hearing that, at least on the House side, it'll be a female lawmaker who actually sponsors the legislation.
And Jennifer, you alluded to it earlier. Do you think the controversy we've seen this past week, what impact do you think that will have here on Republicans as they seek to enact legislation here? Does this change some of the political landscape on this issue somewhat, at least in terms of some of the proposals we've seen out there from Attorney Jim Bopp and others who've called for a law with no exceptions?
I think it absolutely does change the landscape for the sought after suburban, upper middle class female voter that honestly was swinging back a little bit more toward the Republican Party with some of the issues that were happening in education and masks and vaccines. And I think you're going to see a swing back toward the more left side of the equilibrium, because we're not having a special session about access to healthcare, cost of healthcare, family medical leave, pre-K, K-12 funding, any of those things. And I think women in particular are smart enough to realize that we're actually only talking about unborn kiddos and pregnant women, and we're not actually talking about what happens to life outside of those circumstances.
Mike, quickly, 30 seconds, your response to that.
Well, again, go back to what is life? If you believe that babies are alive in the womb, then you have no choice to protect life. And I happen, and I think a lot of Americans happen to believe that's the case.
Okay, Mike, thank you so much. Our thanks to the entire panel. They'll be back here in a few minutes. Coming up next, COVID cases back on the rise, while Indiana doctors also watch for the latest on the monkeypox virus. Stick around, we'll have the latest coming up.